Well, hello, welcome into another edition of Chi Time. This is Chi Time TV on YouTube or the Chi Time podcast on all good podcast platforms. And I'm here today with the founder of the World Tai Chi Qigong Day, Bill Douglas, is with me. And he's got another phenomenal project underway called the Global Transformation Project, which if you are a Chi Time fan, you will know that I've spoken to Bill before about why he does what he does, really. So we're not going to go over that old ground as to why the World Tai Chi Qigong Day came about, because that's all on an episode of Chi Time. I will put a link to that below this so that you'll be able to listen to that. But also this time last year, he was speaking about the Global Transformation Project. And so he's back now, a year later, to give us an update. So welcome back into Chi Time, Bill.
Thanks so much. It's so nice to be back on Chi Time and back in England.
Yeah. Beaming into England. Yeah, I love it. And well, around the world, I guess, because we are a multicultural society now, aren't we? And I think this is becoming more and more, well, it's got its pros and cons. But I think this world, this sort of multiculturalism reminds us of multidimensionality, which is something that I think is really, we're becoming more aware of. And we often we bandy around these terms, mind, body, spirit, and all of that. We're quite used to that. But actually that points to multidimensional existence, doesn't it?
Yes.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, we had just had a physicist on, a chaos mathematician, on our monthly program last Sunday, and he was talking about the need for humanity to touch into a complexity of an approach of complexity, what was fascinating about that for me was that what the science shows is that when we meditate on a regular basis, our brains start to function more in gamma wave consciousness. And gamma wave consciousness is multi-dimensional consciousness, where you're seeing things from different angles in your mind. And then you come to these more elegant organic solutions. And so this physicist was bemoaning the fact that this is somewhat suppressed in society, this elevation to this higher consciousness. But we see it also reflected in the physical world, like you were saying, through the internet, and being able to, like we're growing this tribe, like we were talking about off camera, where the scientific community and the yoga community and the Tai Chi community and the Qigong community, meditation, mindfulness, starting to come together and form. And so we're seeing things, at this higher level of complexity. Yeah, it's very exciting.
That's so interesting. We're going to come back to a little bit more about those monthly discussions that you have on the Global Transformation Project. But we're also, Bill is a published author. His I always call it a seminal tome. The Gospel of Science is just so full of information to help remind people why it is doing these top 5 presencing practices is so good for your health. And with so much distraction, as we mentioned, and so many people's nervous systems just being overstimulated, I mean, to the point of it's so detrimental to health, isn't it? It's like you would think that that when you mention with all the information in the Gospel of Science, that people would get it and go, oh yeah, let's do some meditation, and super compassion to everyone, because it's not easy right now, but there are bright lights out there like yourself that are here. Come over here and have a little look at this. It really is worth you doing something to take care of yourself. So what is it about the approach that you have that's going to help people choose to come into either Tai Chi, Qigong, mindfulness, yoga, or meditation? What is it that's really beckoning them over?
Well, what I did with the Gospel of Science was I put together these 40 years of research into consciousness and mind-body practices and the potential of them for personal health. And then also ultimately, you begin to see that it's for global transformation as well. And what I found was that being immersed in that science started to validate experiences that you have when you're doing mind body practice. But the other thing that it did too was because as you're reading, as you're being immersed in all this science of all these tremendous benefits that mind body practices are proven to do, it caused me to re-immerse myself in my mind body practice. I teach it, I've taught it for 35 years, but you're not always really present, really immersed in it when you're teaching. There are times when you're just going to do your job. And but just being like swimming in all this science showed me that how powerful these things were. And so then I re-established my own practice. And then at the same time, the science was unlocking in my mind that the experiences that I was having with mind body were not strange, unimportant things, but they were very valid, and they're very common for people when they practice these kind of meditative practices on a regular basis. And it just transformed my life in these huge ways. And but the other thing too that I get into in the Gospel of Science is the mainstream media culture. Because what you see as you go through the Gospel of Science, and one thing I want to say is that I'm giving away this 700 cited end-noted book because I just know that it's so important to get this information out right now. Because one of the things that the book shows is that not only mind-body practices can transform us and also ultimately transform our planet, but it also looks into the realization that really what we're dealing with here is like a global consciousness, like a global vibratory rate. And what you start to see, I'm in a really unique situation because I teach a lot of classes through hospital settings. And so I have a lot of students who aren't mind body people or spiritual people or anything, but they're just coming to try to fix their lives. And so I deal with a lot of people every week. And then also in these interviews, I get a chance to connect with a lot of people. And one of the things that you start to realize, and I get into it in the book, is that the mainstream media culture, it operates in a fear-based realm. And in fact, I just saw a clip on YouTube just right before I came on this program, and it was a CNN executive who was caught in like an undercover thing, and he said, "Yeah, he said fear sells. We sell fear." That was the head of CNN. And so, and that's the thing that I've noticed in my classes. It's mainstream media is like a public health issue.
It really is, isn't it?
Yeah, the students that I have, the students that I have that are more immersed in the mainstream media culture, they're more reactive. They're in a real fear and apocalyptic kind of view of the possibilities of the planet. And what my book does is it blows all that away because it's just not scientifically valid. Because, for example, in the book, I pointed out that violent crime rates are at 40-year lows in the United States. They've been dropping precipitously for 40 years. And that's not just the United States. The data shows this is happening in many countries around the world. So why is it happening? Well, the science that I get into, voluminous science, meticulously noted in the book, The Gospel of Science, is that when we practice these mind-body practices, we go into another state, a connective state. And what the research shows, and there's huge research on this, you just don't hear about it on TV because it's not fear-based information. And but what happens is violent crime rates in cities drop precipitously when you have 1% of the population of the city high-level meditators. And this has been validated again and again and again and again. And in fact, in the book, I get into the science that started from the Princeton Engineering and Anomalies Research Laboratory, who I've had the pleasure of talking to several people that have been involved in that personally from the very beginning. And what they found is that our consciousness actually affects physical reality in a real physical way. So there's this thing going on in the planet where there's this vibratory rate of human consciousness. And the Global Consciousness Project, started by Roger Nelson, who was the research director at Princeton, showed that there's a global consciousness. And so the reason that I give this 700-page book away and all the stuff on globaltransformationproject.org, all completely free, is because I just see so clearly that I need to do whatever I can to contribute to lessening this fear-based, not reality-based, just fear-based, because fear sells on mainstream media. So it's not reality, but it's a fear-based created reality. And it's like a spell. And if the more people that can wake up from it, the different their vibratory rate is. And the different their vibratory rate is, the different their community's vibratory rate is, and the different the
Yes.
planetary vibratory rate is. And so we're at a moment where humanity has incredible potential, but it's not going to be solved from this fear-based consciousness.
No.
Like, for example, in the United States, 64 cents on every discretionary tax dollar goes to military-related spending because we are trained to be afraid of everybody on the planet. We're
Oh,
taught to be afraid of the Russians. We're taught to be afraid of the Chinese. We're taught to be afraid of the Iranians. We're taught to be
fear
afraid of
again.
the Venezuelans. And this just goes on and on and on and on. And then the other thing is, at a time when violent crime rates are at 40-year lows in the United States, you'd think we would have less prisons, but we don't. We imprison more of our people than any country on the planet. That makes no rational sense. To be at a moment in time when violent crime rates are at 40-year lows, yet we just can't seem to put enough people in prisons. And
God.
so this fear consciousness is at the core of all of our problems. And the more people break out of that unreality, that
Yeah.
unreal fear-based, constructed reality, and mind body is so effective at getting us back in touch with the core. And the
Core
core, and I
reality.
get into all this science in the book, but when you look at the fractal reality of the universe, of us and of the universe, compassion and connection are the most powerful forces in the universe. And so it's all we got to do is just wake up from this spell.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I was going to say that the higher frequencies are stronger than the lower frequencies. Like you say, there's only 1% of the population can make that much difference. Imagine what it's like 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%, 20%. Come
Yeah,
on, we can do this. And it was
exactly.
something that you were saying in a previous discussion we were having about, what happened to you. During the pandemic, where it's that sort of watching media the whole time just to make sure you didn't miss any bit of information, because I think this is
Right.
what people kind of get into. What happens if I don't pick up the news? But you were
Yeah.
describing how it set you into a real sort of like an emotional breakdown, and it was too much for
Yeah.
your empathic nature to be able to cope with this barrage of fear-based, twisted, not reality, and so
Yeah.
you've had that experience, haven't you? You know what it feels like.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know what I've come to realize, and all these scientists that we talk about in our monthly programs, like the chaostician that we had on last Sunday, uh, what you start to see is that chaos, crisis or chaos in our lives is this opportunity for
Yes.
huge growth. And it's not uncommon, we had a psychologist from the University of Virginia, Perceptual Studies Department. And it's not uncommon for crises to precede a huge breakthrough in
Exactly.
consciousness and possibility. And that's what happened to me, because it's really, I was doing what everybody was doing during the lockdowns. I was sitting there watching the TV because well, it's all designed to make us feel this way. You feel like you have to watch it all the time, or else you're going to miss out on the thing that would have prepared you for the zombie apocalypse that's about to come. And so you
Like they
just didn't
would.
want to miss it. And so you were hanging on every word, and every word was just an escalating level of fear.
Yeah.
And uh, and so I just got to a point where, yes, I had a personal crisis. I just broke down. And so my response to that was I turned off the media. I just
Yes.
turned off the media, and I went back to meditation, and I went back to nature.
Yeah.
Because meditation is really just a way to commune with nature, because that's what we are. We're nature. The whole universe is nature. When we let go of that false reality and we touch into that clear, light, open space, and then we connect with that natural compassion that spreads, through everything.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
so, yeah, so that crisis led me to the realization that when we touch into that core, when we use these different kind of mindfulness and meditative tools that are proven by science to take us into alpha state, we get in touch with that core that's so clear and so light and so bright, and it just shatters the spell of all that fear. And uh, uh, and so that personal crisis, what I have found in my life is that I don't know why, and sometimes it feels like, almost like a curse, but I tend to go through these crises just a a little bit of time before the general public does, and it may be
Okay.
because I'm immersed in all with classes and all the stuff that I do,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's like I'll have these kind of premonitory crises, and then when everybody else is going through that same crisis, it's like I'm not involved in it, and I'm able to
Help.
provide commentary on it, and
Yeah.
maybe some guideposts about how I got through it, and
That's
then
it.
that.
That's it. But I love what you were saying. I could feel that as you were describing nature and the compassion of nature, that it's always there waiting for us. All you have to do is switch off the devices. And, I'm talking to myself as well. A lot of my work is on the computers and the smartphones. And
Same
it's like,
here.
but
Same here. I have several
you,
websites. I have
you
5,000
get
Facebook friends.
and
Yeah.
you're like, ooh, but nature, there she is. I can see the trees and the sky every day, mostly as long as I'm not tipping down with rain. But even sometimes I've gone out in the rain because I've just needed to defrag and step away. And it is
Yeah,
that
and it
choice.
and it always
Yeah.
welcomes you. It
Yes,
always
that's
welcomes
true.
you back.
It
It
does,
reminds
doesn't
me of, it reminds. Did you ever see that Danny DeVito, Arnold Schwarzenegger movie Twins,
Oh,
where
ages ago, yeah.
they found out they were twins, through a biological experiment and anything. And anyway, Danny DeVito was this horribly cynical character who'd had a pretty rough life, and Arnold Schwarzenegger had this beautiful, optimal life. And so anyway, they find out that they might be able to track down their mother. So they're trying to track down their mother, and right before they go to see her for the first time, they Danny DeVito character gets really scared, and he goes, and Arnold Schwarzenegger's character, the good guy, he goes, he goes, he says, but if we find our mother, we'll find home. And Danny DeVito goes, home. And Arnold Schwarzenegger goes, home. He goes, that's the place that you can always go to, even when you've been very, very bad.
And that's what Mother Nature is like. She's so forgiving. She doesn't tell you off for not communing. She's always there to hold you. So there's that
I
compassion.
don't think that that core really judges.
No.
It's just welcoming. It's just always welcoming.
Exactly, it is. It is. That's lovely. I like to bring up that other point that you were making about crises produce breakthroughs, because most of us would choose the comfortable option. It's like, oh, I'll just stay in my comfy sofa and like my comfy setup because it's comfy, but it can sometimes feel a bit edgy because you know that I've got a bit something's not quite up to. It's a bit old comfort, and so it often takes
Stagnant.
this sort of shock to sort of something to break you out the spell, as you say, to start to choose differently. And I don't know about you, but I find it quite good fun. This is an experiment I started when I was first living home free, when I let go of having a home for 5 years, which I'm sure I've told you about. Um, and this was to make a difference, to make a small difference every day, just to choose to do something different, or to rearrange part of well, I'm at home now, so I put my cutlery drawer in a different place just to sort of do something different, and I that kind of thing. Small changes can help to lure you into a different way of living with yourself, so that it's not all the same. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I'm always, when I do my meditation and Tai Chi and Qigong classes, I'm always encouraging people. Well, we're always trying to let go and just kind of let it happen to us. And I'm always trying to encourage people to just let all these experiences be brand new, brand
Mm.
new. And then we do tapping, and I tell them, just let the arms, just the body, just go on autopilot, so that you don't know when it's coming, and then it's like somebody else is doing it, and then we get in the habit of surprising ourselves. We don't quite know
Yes,
when it's coming,
yes,
and you want to get into that habit even when you're not doing, meditative practices. When you're out in your lives. And I think that's one of the exciting things about mind body, is because you have to let go of everything. You have to let go of your intention, your expectation, everything you are, everything you believe, so that your brain, your pineal gland, can let go, and your mind can just kind of drift into that open consciousness. And that ability to surprise ourselves, yeah, that it makes everything start to become a game. It's like,
That's
it's like
enlivening.
I'll try to put on my sock and my shoes standing on one foot,
Yes.
to see if I can sync my vertical axis, and keep my balance while I'm doing that. And
Yeah.
just, like you say, just little things that you can do that just make your whole life just this really delightful adventure. But it's always about being present. That's what the science
Yes.
shows, and that's what all these
Yes.
practices show. I always tell my students, as you play with these things, it becomes increasingly apparent that when we're present, that's where the magic happens.
That's where
When
the
our
power
brains are
is.
bouncing around on a whole bunch of different things,
Mm,
all the magic goes away. And the
mm,
and the brain scientist that we had on from Toulouse, France, a few weeks ago, he said that he studies brain waves and the reaction of the brain to different stimuli and things like that. And what he said is what their research shows is that when we're present, that's when we're the happiest. When our brain is bouncing around on different subjects and topics all the time, we're less happy. And again, that gets back into the media matrix, because the media matrix just has our brains just bouncing around all kinds of conflicts. And a lot of these are just created conflicts.
mm.
That's the one thing I found. Once I stopped watching mainstream media, I started talking to human beings. And people that I was told by the media that I watched were supposed to be my enemies and supposed to be bad people, I found out they really weren't.
Mm.
They were really a lot like me. And it was like a created false reality that just keeps your mind bouncing around all over the place. And so the more we come back to these mindfulness practices, meditation, Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, uh, Qigong, meditation, yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong, and mindfulness. I don't want to leave anybody out. But, when we come back to these mindfulness practices and the mind stops wandering, we just naturally start to become more happy, and we feel more connected to the universe. And the parts of our brain that feel connected actually become more active. And the parts of our brain that make us feel isolated and separate become less active. And so
Yeah.
it's the opportunity there is beautiful.
Oh, that's so beautiful how you describe that as well, because it makes such sense. And there was a real landing. You were talking about home. Where is home? And it was the question that I was asking myself when I went home free all those years ago. Where is home? Is it in Austria? Is it in Spain? Is it? And it's like, duh, it's actually in you, And so
Yeah.
that giving yourself permission to land in your presence, giving yourself your presence, is such a massive gift.
Yeah.
It's like you're worthy, you're worth giving yourself time and presence to. And
Yeah.
that's like, oh, I mean, it stops you being so needy or reaching. It's like just very
Yeah.
simply with your breath or whatever. But that gift of personal presence, massive.
Yeah, yep. And then you start to come to terms with the reality of how beautiful and elegant we are as human beings. Because that's another thing that the popular culture, the popular media culture does, is it diminishes us. It makes us feel small. It makes us
Mm.
feel insignificant. We're punchlines in the situation comedies that we watch. Anybody who has who has a larger consciousness, they're the comic relief. They're not. You know what I mean? If anybody that watched Friends, there was that one character that was into mind body stuff, and she was the one that was always the butt of all the jokes. I didn't watch it enough to memorize everybody's names, but you'll
No.
know who I'm talking about if you watch Friends. And so that's one of the things that happens. The more we go into these these alpha states, alpha theta states,
Mm.
and when you get into these mindfulness practices, your brain lets go of word thought, and it starts to let go and kind of drift and open, and there's a lightness there, and that just uh, brings back to us how beautiful and elegant we are, and how incredible, what incredible potential that we all have within us that's just trying to expand through us all the time. And when I was talking to the chaostician, we were talking about systems and global systems and consciousness. And I said, I just feel like we're in the midst of a huge awakening, and you can
Totally.
feel your heart, you can feel your mind, you can feel everything stretching at the seams, and it's stretching the seams of that false reality, that
Mm.
fear-based reality. And we're all the most revolutionary thing we can do is get in touch with that beautiful, elegant, light part of ourselves. And then what
Yes.
happens is we just start to treat other people that way, and in these divisions that are created in mainstream popular culture and media culture, they just start to, it's like they were
Fall away.
illusions or spells.
Yeah.
They just start to
Exactly, exactly. And it's reminding yourself that you are a miracle. You know, that elegance that you speak about is actually remembering that when you come into your presence, it's like, it's a miracle I exist. Oh my goodness, thank you so much. You know, let me see what I can do with this, and let me see what my choices are. And that piece about being rebellious, it feels to me like when you're healthy, that feels like a rebellious act these days, because
Yeah.
over in like mainstream, if you're with old friends and family that have known you for years and years, mostly they will talk about their ailments, and
Yep.
there's be a lot of complaining or gossiping, and like, see, you tend to become the brunt of the jokes when you start to want to talk about more uh,
Yeah.
altruistic things, or what's going, you know, how we can reduce microplastics or whatever. So what are you talking about all that for? It's like, well, I think, you know, if you could put your energy away from, or well, if you could help yourself be weller, then it means you would have more energy to be able to focus on the real problems of the day. And my feeling, my overall feeling is this is of common unity could come together, that because we have so much that we could oh, my cat's just come in, because there are so many problems. If we united, we could tackle them together, but keeping us like separate actually
Mhm.
stops us being able to converge as a team, and also to find out who's got which bits of the jigsaw puzzle. And you've got a huge bit here with all the information coming through the science and consciousness, you know, and you're bringing it into your one. So you're giving away your book then, is it for free?
Yeah, yeah. Amazon limits me on to how often I can give it away for free. I just gave it away on March 10th, but I'll be giving it away on future dates. So if anybody joins the newsletter at worldtaichiday.org, or if even better, if you sign the petition at globaltransformationproject.org, anytime the book's free, I'll send out a notice so that everybody can get that. But
That's
one
brilliant.
thing
Yeah.
one thing that you were just talking about was one of the things that's becoming increasingly apparent to me. Now that I've kind of unplugged from the drama of the creative drama and touch back into that source, is that you get to where you can really sense the energetic level of conversations that we have with
Yes.
people. And
Yes.
yeah, and I've noticed what you're just talking about. It's like, if I'm with a group of people and it starts to descend down into gossip or constant complaining, or any of those kind of things, I'll tune out. I'll tune out and just meditate, I find, and I think Tai Chi really helped with this. I'll just kind of, I don't do it consciously, but I just kind of open to the flow, and then I'll just kind of direct the conversation in a different pathway, and then you can feel the vibratory rates start to elevate. When
Beautiful.
when it gets more into a conversation of wonder and possibility instead of bitching and moaning.
Yeah,
It's not
that's
like I have rose-colored glasses. It's like I know there's things going
no.
on the planet that have to change.
No,
Economically, politically, on every level.
but
We have
that
to move
is
into a more compassionate way of doing everything. But so it's not like I have rose-colored glasses or anything. But we're not going to solve those problems through bitterness.
no,
All those problems are going to be
no.
solved through compassion and
Yes.
possibility and hope.
Well, that's it. You want your friends and family to be to understand all this, but each and everyone in their own time. But I think, as you were speaking about that, turning the energy around, that's real mastery of the situation. And I'm going to take a leaf out of your book there and see what I can do next time. But I tend to just step back and not say anything, but I think there's an opportunity there to be able to drop some nuggets of some questions, especially now there's new family members being born. It's like, well, what kind of world are you imagining? You know, just kind of opening it up and seeing what people's visions are, because this this consciousness that we have as individuals, but also that we share, is very powerful for visioning in our future. So let's talk
Mm-hmm.
more about this global transformation project then, as we yeah.
Yes. So for anybody who's new to it, if you go to globaltransformationproject.org, you'll see our petition. You can sign it.
That's it. Yeah.
And what it is, it's a petition that we're going to take to every United Nations mission on the planet, to support a United Nations resolution, to co-sponsor a United Nations resolution advocating mind-body education for public educators all over the planet. So we want to use the UN as it'd be non-binding, non-mandatory. No country, no school, no student would have to participate. Be completely voluntary, but it would use the United Nations as a vehicle to expose educators all over the planet of the profound potential of including mind-body practice. What we're suggesting is 1 hour a day, 5 days a week for kindergarten through 12th grade, taught at age-appropriate ways, so that children are able to maintain this connection with their alpha state consciousness, because we're in alpha state up until about 7 years old, and it's no coincidence that that's when we're learning at an incredible rate, and that's when we heal at an incredible rate. And so all this science shows that when we lose touch with that, as we become more left brain and linear and kind of fear-based, really separate based, we lose touch with that alpha state. And so we don't want that to happen. We want kids to be able to maintain a connection with that alpha state all the way through high school. And what will happen is that the way that we're approaching educators is that the science shows, and you can see all this on the website, globaltransformationproject.org. But what the educators see there is the science that shows that regular meditators increase their IQs on an average about 20 points. And that's pretty massive, significant thing. And then also their GRE reading scores improve, their math proficiency skills improve, their verbal fluency improves. These are all the core things that we want students to be able to do.
Yeah,
but it
and
also boosts
their social skills. If they're happy within themselves, and they're going to
bullying rates go down
friends.
in the schools that do this. Bullying rates go down. Yeah, and violence. I've taught in prisons. I taught at Folsom Prison, and prisons that employ these mind-body practices, their violent incident rates drop dramatically. And so while these, so we're approaching educators because it just makes no rational sense not to be teaching kids how to do this, just from an educational standpoint. But the other thing that happens is their brains are evolving in a more healthful way, because humans at their core, when you look at the science, are community-based. We're tribal. Tribal is not a good word because that kind of implies separatism. But compassion is our natural state. And so these mind-body practices increase the empathy and compassion parts of the brain, shrink the stress, fear parts of the brain. And the science shows that our consciousness doesn't stop at our skull, so it echoes out through the whole planet. So while we're getting educators around the planet to begin exposing, and we want them to bring mind-body teachers in from their communities. Organizing World Tai Chi Day showed us mind-body teachers are in every city around the planet. And so it's all there. It's all set up. All these schools need to do is start bringing in these local Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, meditation, and mindfulness teachers. And those teachers teaching kids in age-appropriate ways. And then this ripple of compassion and connection and clarity and calm echoes through the global consciousness, which Dr. Roger Nelson from the Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research Lab, his Global Consciousness Project research shows there's a global consciousness that's more powerfully affected by these states of clarity and connection and compassion than it is by fear and stress and horror. And so that is a huge thing, to be introducing hundreds of millions of new meditating minds onto the face of the planet at this critical moment of possibility for humanity.
And it is. This is the way we change the world, people. It's the way we do it. And thank you, Bill, for all that you're doing to ensure that this can happen as quickly as possible as well. And I know that you have a lot of collaborations going on and people coming into the Global Transformation Project. So absolutely head over to that website. I will put the links below as well so that you can click through. But I'm glad.
And it's a testament to people. Don't underestimate your ability to change the world. Because I'm just a small town Western Kansas farm boy, and I don't have a college education, but we've brought together some of the leading minds in brain science and consciousness science and psychology and health and education and mind body as co-collaborators on this global transformation project. And so, you can familiarize yourself with this. It's real simple. The science is massive. You can point people to the website, and you can start you can sign this petition and then start spreading this petition out through all your connections, because everybody who wants to, this would save the world trillions of dollars in
Yes,
future healthcare and social costs. The science is in on this. And so in the Gospel of Science, I have all the science, you can see it. And so we could be giving people a more hopeful possibility for the future of humanity. And like Clara was saying earlier, the science shows that our vision of our future is a huge part of what our future is going to be. That's what the science shows. And so we could all be playing a real healing role in history by spreading this petition and getting other people to spread this petition. This can spread exponentially. We can go to the United Nations with millions of signatures,
yes.
millions of signatures.
Let's do it. I'm just feeling like
Yeah.
excited, and my heart field is just opening, and it's like there's a resonance of such truth in what you're saying here, Bill. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I know that when we all gather together and we help to raise our frequency on days like the World Tai Chi Qigong Day, and I think there's the International Day of Yoga as well on the
Yep,
summer
the following
solstice as
month.
well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
World Tai Chi Day in April,
yeah.
World International Day of Yoga is the following month.
And
All
what we're
these
doing,
things are
yeah,
changing global consciousness. We have the
yeah.
science on it. When you go to
Yeah, but what we
globaltransformationproject.org, we
want,
have the data.
as you were saying about bringing it into education so that we can sustain it and so that you bring this into your everyday life. Yes, you have a great time. I remember this time last year on the World Tai Chi Qigong Day, massive shift. I did a session in the morning. I always do a live stream at 10 a.m. Local
Nice.
time so that the wave can continue here in Avalon. So I'll be sending you links for that.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
and but then in the evening I met up with friends, and such beautiful serendipitous energy. I knew that I could feel that beautiful wave around the earth, and that everybody was getting a blast of it, whether they knew about it or not, and the magic was happening. And
Yep.
that when we can recognize that frequency, we recognize it as being our true nature, then we return to it again and again, because that's what feels
Yep.
right to us, and that
Well,
perpetuates more of it into the world.
well, and it's so exciting because, all the things that you were saying about that sensation that you get when you're doing it on that day and the synchronicities, the science is validating these experiences that we've been having. This is a really unusual, unprecedented time in human history where we're seeing, we're working with the Galileo Commission now, we're working with the Medical and Scientific Network, we're working with the Global Coherence Initiative and the HeartMath Institute, the Global Consciousness Project, all these scientists, and we're bringing together the mind-body community, Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, meditation, and mindfulness, to all begin to create this, kind of gathering force of connection. And these scientists, these intrepid scientists who've suffered the mainstream media and the mainstream culture, and unfortunately, too many of the scientific institutions have suppressed this incredible science showing that the potential of humanity is so much more huge than anybody's telling us about. And we get into this with these scientists, this suppression that's happening. And we're getting to the point where everybody's fed up with it.
Mm.
And we're ready to take our place and find our esteem and step forward and say, it is crazy that the planet is not embracing these things.
Absolutely. And
And the planet is. It's
the
just
planet
that you're
is,
not seeing it on TV. You're
yeah,
just
but
not seeing it on TV. That's
you
the
need
whole
to
thing.
watch different channels and tune into Chi Time and
Well,
other channels.
YouTube
Yes.
offers YouTube programs like this are incredibly valuable because it spreads information that people don't get if they watch
No,
cable news all day long. They just don't get this
exactly.
kind of information,
So we're
and
going to
it's transformative.
the oh, thank you, Bill. It is indeed, indeed, and it's so exciting to be watching this journey and be, have a small part to play in it as well. Like we all can. You're all welcome. In fact, we need you all. Humanity needs
Yeah,
us all at this time. And what we've so the World Tai Chi Qigong Day is on April the 27th. So
yeah,
check out worldtaichiday.org.
yep.
Hang on. Yeah. That's the one, yeah.
Yeah.
To find out if there's somewhere in your area you can go and be in person. I actually just found I did some clearing out of my parents' place. In fact, clearing was one of the topics I wanted to chat with you about, but I don't think we got time on this episode. But I found all the photographs that from the World Tai Chi Qigong Day from like 2014 when we did it in the local bank, because it was a really big bank. It had a huge like lobby, and so my classes all came together, and we did a display, and we talked about World Tai Chi Qigong Day, and had some pictures of around the world and people gathering, and brought it into the mainstream. And I was really like pleased to remember that when you can gather in person outside and you see like all these people gathering for this one thing, it just makes you feel really part of something real and kind of calmly exciting, like,
Yeah.
so everybody is welcome. And then
Yeah, and just the very idea of the planet coming together just to hang out and play together,
I know,
in
so
a
cool,
spirit of connection and compassion and healing.
huge,
And
huge.
uh, yeah, it's extraordinary. And it was all completely grassroots. You know, we all tend to think that if you're going to do something big, you have to have billionaires behind it and all this kind of stuff. This was like a spontaneous grassroots on. Now, I'm not saying that we didn't work our butts off. We
Right,
did,
exactly, to
trying to
make it
keep,
actually
but it was
happen,
trying
yeah.
to keep up with the growth of it. That
Right,
was where all
yeah,
the work came in, trying to facilitate it in that way. But the actual expanse of it, looking back on it, I mean, it was nothing short of miraculous. Because
absolutely.
countries were having. Cuba had this massive event with, I think it was like tens of thousands of people doing Tai
What?
Chi through the streets of Havana and, different places around the world. We would see these videos sometimes after World Tai Chi Day. We didn't even know these things were happening, or we'd see them in the media because we were always scanning the media, seeing these massive events. And it wasn't like, people think that we like engineered this whole thing. No, no, no. We were surprised by this just as much as everybody else was. And that's the potential of touching into that core place, where we connect with the universe and things happen and things bubble and things percolate. Yeah.
It's proper magic at play, isn't it? Proper
Yeah.
magic. So that's the 27th of April. And on the 28th of April, the Healing Our Earth Network are doing a celebration of Bill Douglas for a 25-year anniversary of the World Tai Chi Qigong Day, isn't it?
Yeah, time flies.
I know, you're on your silver anniversary. So myself and Sharon Rose will be there along with Keith Sharp. He's the one that's got us all going around. Let's just pull it all into one. And then, of course, Neil Kumar and all his beautiful crew there at Healing Our Earth.
Yeah,
So
the
I
yoga
will,
folks.
yeah, so we will enjoy seeing you then. So any last messages for people here on Chi Time before we go, Bill?
No, just sign the petition, globaltransformationproject.org, and get it. When the book is free, or if your library has it, get Gospel of Science Second Edition. Start immersing yourself in the science like I did, and then it'll really get you to immerse yourself in that mind-body practices, your connection with your core, your connection, and that's the connection with the universe. And every time we go into these mindfulness states, these celebratory consciousness states, and these presence states, we're changing the planet and changing ourselves and opening up to just endless possibility. And so, you know, uh, if you watch the mass media a lot, you're going to think that we're in the end times, but actually, we're at the beginning of some incredible possibility for humanity. And I think once you kind of get out of that matrix and you get back in touch with that lightness, it's like it becomes palpable. You can feel that we're on the edge of some huge changes. And the faster it happens, the easier all these changes are going to be for all of us.
Beautifully said, Bill. Thank you so much for being part of Chi Time again.
Thank you.
You're really welcome. And thank you all for listening or watching. If you are new to my YouTube channel, please click the subscribe button and then you'll get to know what's coming up next. And if you're
And tell people
interested,
about these channels. Tell people about these channels.
Yes,
that's how these
that's
things
how we
grow.
do it, exactly.
Yeah.
And tell your friends, share this episode if it's really touched you and you know someone that would be interested in it. Pass it on, do, because we all do this stuff for free from the energy of our heart to share with you. And so that's we want to encourage that. That if it's touched your heart, pass it on to someone else who might also be touched by it. And that's how we
I
do
find
this.
I find that's part of the revolution is
Yes,
is
yes,
providing things for free. And it's so hard for people. A lot of times it's hard for people to grasp that you're giving something for free because everybody's got an angle. But because
what we used to.
everything in the popular culture, it's all money based. You have to have a lot of money to advertise and do different things like that. And so when you present people with gifts from the heart, it's kind of, if when we're in the matrix, it's really hard to wrap your head around that
Yeah,
people would just come from their heart and just give
yeah.
things away for free.
Exactly. But having said that, there is a donate button on the Global Transformation Project because,
Yeah.
you do have back end costs. We all have back end
Oh yeah.
costs. So,
Yeah,
we
you
do other
gotta be
things
on
for
the
money.
web.
Yeah.
You gotta be on the web. You gotta have your your
Yeah.
communication programs. All that stuff costs money. Yeah.
Yeah.
And but it's like it seems to appear. It's like the things that have been necessary to make it happen, they come. And and if
Attract in.
if you're in a situation where you can't contribute, that's great.
Yeah.
But spreading the petition and spreading the information and programs like Claris, that's so important.
Bless you. Thank you so much. So let's all have a blast on the Tibetan heart bowl that I've got here and just sit in the love presence for a minute or so just to finish off this episode. So take a deep breath in. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Keep your chi up, my friends. Your energy is important. So are you. See you next time.
Thanks, Clara.
Thank you.
Beautiful.